Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So, we're diving headfirst into the core concepts from Eric Ries's game-changing book today, The Lean Startup.
It really is a massive shift in how we think about business.
It is, yeah. And our mission today is highly specific. We want to give you, the listener, a very real, very practical shortcut to becoming a smarter, faster innovator. And we're going to do that by unpacking a framework known as the build, measure, learn loop.
Right.
Because, look, whether you're grinding away on a weekend side hustle or, managing a massive corporate initiative or trying to launch a tech company from your kitchen table, the reality is that building something new is inherently risky.
Highly risky.
Yeah. And the harsh truth we have to confront right at the top is that most new ventures fail.
They do.
But they don't fail because the engineering is bad or because the team couldn't physically build the product. They fail because they spend months, sometimes even years, building this beautifully polished product that absolutely nobody actually wants.
Yeah, it's the ultimate tragedy of traditional product development. We are so conditioned to treat innovation like it's a mystical process, right?
Oh, totally. Like the lone genius in a garage.
Exactly. Like it's just about having that one lightning bolt moment of creative genius. But the source material makes a very compelling case that entrepreneurship isn't magic at all. It's actually a form of management.
Right.
It demands a rigorous scientific process. You see, when you're operating under conditions of extreme uncertainty, which, by the way, is where every single new product lives, you simply can't rely on those classic 5-year business plans or traditional market forecasts.
Because you just don't know enough yet.
Exactly.
Right.
The future is entirely unpredictable, and frankly, you don't even know who your target customer is yet. That is why traditional planning falls apart so spectacularly, and why we have to replace it with the lean startup methodologies engine, which is the build, measure, learn feedback loop.
And the goal of that build, measure, learn loop isn't just to make more stuff.
No, definitely not.
I think that's a trap a lot of really ambitious teams fall into. They just churn out feature after feature just to feel productive.
Right, the illusion of progress.
Yes. But the actual goal is to achieve what the sources call validated learning, and to do it with the absolute least amount of effort and time possible.
Precisely. Validated learning is the process of proving empirically using real data from real human beings that you've discovered valuable truths about your business.
Okay.
And the vehicle we use to jump into that build, measure, learn loop is the minimum viable product, or MVP. But it's so important to clarify what an MVP actually is because the term gets wildly misunderstood all the time.
Oh, yeah. People think it just means a terrible version of their idea.
Exactly. It is not just taking your grand vision and chopping it down to the smallest possible version. And it's certainly not an excuse to release a buggy, terrible product just to see what happens.
Right.
Your MVP is simply the fastest, most efficient way to test your leap of faith assumptions.
Leap of faith assumption.
Yeah. Every new venture is built on these assumptions, but there are two that matter above all else: the value hypothesis and the growth hypothesis.
Okay, break those down for us.
Sure. So the value hypothesis asks, does this product actually solve a real problem for the customer?
Do they care?
Right. And the growth hypothesis asks, how will new customers discover this product? Everything you do early on should be engineered specifically to test those two questions.
Wait, let me push back on that a little bit.
Sure.
Because if I'm a founder, right, and I've got this incredible vision for a premium product, doesn't releasing something quote-unquote minimum run the risk of ruining my brand reputation right out of the gate?
It's a common fear.
Like if the first thing people see is a scrappy, half-finished MVP, aren't they just going to think my company's cheap?
That is the natural fear, absolutely. But it assumes you're launching to the mainstream market right away. You aren't.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, your MVP isn't for the average consumer. It's targeted strictly at early adopters. These are the people who feel the specific pain point you're trying to solve so acutely that they do not care if the product is unpolished.
They just want the pain to stop.
Exactly. They just want the solution. If your MVP is truly solving a desperate need, those early adopters will forgive the lack of polish.
Wow.
And if they don't care about your scrappy MVP, it's a huge red flag that your value hypothesis might just be wrong. It's much better to learn that reality early, before you've spent millions of dollars and years of your life polishing a product nobody wants.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So how does that actually look in the real world? Because if I'm building a complex software platform, my immediate instinct is to lock myself in a room with my team and just start coding.
Which is exactly what Drew Houston didn't do when he founded Dropbox.
Right, the Dropbox story. Today, Dropbox is this massive, invisible infrastructure we all use to sync files. But back in the day, building the back-end technology to sync files flawlessly across Macs, PCs, mobile devices, that was a monumental engineering nightmare.
Well, it was impossible for a small team to do quickly.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating here is the elegance of his solution. Drew Houston knew that if he followed traditional advice, he'd be coding in isolation for years, just hoping that once he finally cracked the technical challenge, people would actually want to use it.
Right.
Instead, he built a video MVP.
A video.
He didn't build the software first. He just recorded a 3-minute video of his computer screen narrating how the software would work once it was built. He showed files dragging and dropping, syncing seamlessly, and he peppered the video with inside jokes tailored specifically to his target early adopters.
The Dig and Reddit crowds.
Exactly. The tech-savvy users who felt that file syncing pain the most.
And the reaction was insane.
Right.
He put that simple video out there, and the waiting list for Dropbox went from something like 5,000 to 75,000 people overnight.
Overnight.
He proved the demand before the heavy lifting even began.
Exactly. He validated his leap of faith assumption, his value hypothesis, without writing a single line of the complex back-end code. Any time spent engineering a product that nobody wanted to sign up for would have been pure waste. The video did the heavy lifting of the MVP.
Man, that is brilliant. I can wrap my head around a video MVP for software. But what if you're building a physical service? Let's look at a totally different industry here.
Let's do it.
The sources bring up a startup called Food on the Table, which was a meal planning and grocery delivery service. Now, if I'm the CEO, Manuel Rosso, my first thought is, okay, I need an app that integrates with the inventory databases of every major grocery store chain in the country.
And if he had done that, he would have spent millions before ever talking to a single customer.
Right.
Instead, he utilized what we call a concierge MVP. He did the exact opposite of building a massive automated tech stack. He literally went to his early customers' homes in person.
In person? Wow.
He sat at their kitchen tables, figured out what their families liked to eat, and manually created their weekly meal plans. Then, he physically went to the local grocery stores, walked the aisles, found the best deals on those specific ingredients, and handed the finalized plan to the customer.
That sounds exhausting.
Oh, it was. He even collected their monthly subscription fees via handwritten checks. It was an entirely manual, exhausting, highly unscalable process.
But wait, to any traditional business manager, taking handwritten checks and walking grocery aisles yourself sounds like a complete failure.
Yeah.
You can't scale an executive doing in-home visits. How is that a successful business strategy?
That's the counterintuitive genius of the lean startup methodology. Doing things manually at the beginning isn't a failure to scale. It's a deliberate, highly calculated strategy for learning.
Okay, learning what exactly?
Manuel Rosso wasn't trying to build a scalable business on day one. He was testing his core value hypothesis. He needed to know, will customers actually pay for a service that curates meal plans based on grocery store sales? By acting as a concierge, he got immediate, visceral, face-to-face feedback. Every single week, he learned exactly what nuances were required to keep a customer happy.
Oh, so he was the algorithm.
He was the algorithm. And the company only started to invest in software automation when the founders were physically too busy to manually onboard another customer. They scaled a process that was already empirically proven to work, rather than guessing what an automated system might need to do in the future.
That is so smart.
The takeaway for you listening right now is this. Don't be afraid to do things that don't scale early on. It's the best way to ensure you're actually building something of value.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's say you've done the scary part. You've got an MVP out in the wild, whether it's a scrappy video or you're running around doing a concierge service. Now you have to measure its success.
And this is where it all goes wrong for so many.
Yeah, because the sources highlight this massive, ego-driven trap that almost every company falls into, which is vanity metrics.
The worst kind of metrics.
We're talking about total gross registered users or cumulative page views. They're the numbers that always go up and to the right on a graph. They look absolutely phenomenal on a PowerPoint slide, and they make everybody in the boardroom feel like geniuses.
Right.
But they are incredibly dangerous.
They're pure success theater. Think about it. If your total user base goes from 10,000 to 12,000, your team might pop champagne. But what if those 2,000 new users only showed up because you ran a wildly expensive PR stunt and none of them ever actually logged in to use the product?
Then you're just bleeding cash for a vanity number.
Exactly. Vanity metrics hide the truth. To actually learn anything, we have to replace them with actionable metrics. And we do that through cohort analysis. Instead of looking at cumulative totals, we segment our users into specific groups cohorts based on when they joined, and we track their behavior over a specific period of time.
Hold on, before we give our listeners the tool to track this, we need to break down the specific metrics we're looking at within these cohorts, because I hear people mix up terms like activation and retention all the time.
They do, constantly.
What is the actual difference in what they tell us?
It's a vital distinction. Activation measures the very first critical interaction. It answers the question, did this person sign up and actually try the core feature of the product?
Okay.
Retention, on the other hand, measures long-term value. It answers the question, did they come back a week later or a month later and keep using it? You can have sky-high activation because your marketing is great, but if your retention is zero, your product is a leaky bucket.
Let's give you, the listener, a practical tool to visualize this right now. We're going to build a mental framework called the minimum metrics table. This is going to be your new dashboard.
Grab a pen.
Yeah. Based on the Vodazin and IMBU case studies in the text, your table needs to aggressively track 4 specific things for every single cohort. First, registration percentage out of everyone who visits, how many actually sign up. Second, activation percentage, how many of those who signed up actually engage with the product's core value. Third, retention percentage, how many of them are still using it weeks later. And fourth, referral percentage, how many of them like it enough to tell their friends.
If we look at the IMVU example from the source material, the contrast between vanity metrics and cohort analysis is just staggering.
Tell us about IMVU.
So IMVU was an early avatar-based social network. If you only looked at their total number of registered users, it was a flawless hockey stick growth chart. It looked like they were on the fast track to an IPO.
Boardroom poppin' champagne again.
Exactly. But when they applied cohort analysis and looked at those 4 actionable metrics you just listed, the reality was grim. The team was exhausting themselves, releasing new features every single day, trying to drive engagement. But their cohort analysis showed that no matter what new shiny feature they added, only about 8% of new users were sticking around.
Only 8%.
Their retention rate was stubbornly flat. The actionable reality was that their engine of growth was completely stalled, even while the vanity metrics painted a picture of inevitable success.
That is terrifying. Because if they had just trusted the vanity metrics, they would have kept pouring millions of dollars into marketing a product that couldn't retain users. Which brings us to the ultimate crossroads every innovator eventually faces. You're tracking your cohorts, the numbers are flat. You've tried tweaking the product, changing the marketing, and nothing is working. What do?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where you face the single toughest psychological hurdle in entrepreneurship: the decision to pivot or persevere.
The big pivot.
A pivot is a structured, fundamental course correction. It's designed to test a completely new hypothesis about the product, the strategy, or the engine of growth. And knowing exactly when to pivot is notoriously difficult because human beings are naturally optimistic. We want to believe that if we just push a little harder, if we just add one more feature, success is right around the corner.
Let's look at the story of David Benetti at Vodazin to see how painful this can be. Vodazin was designed as a social network for verified voters. David was a smart founder. He didn't overbuild. He launched his first MVP for just $1,200 in 3 months.
Super lean.
Very lean. He rigorously tracked his actionable metrics. He saw that his activation rate was only 17%, and his retention was basically non-existent at 5%. So he did what founders are supposed to do. He persevered. He started tuning the engine. He spent the next 8 months and another $20,000 relentlessly split testing, changing the messaging, optimizing the design.
And it sort of worked, didn't it?
It did, sort of. He got that activation rate up from 17% to an incredible 90%. People were verifying their voter status left and right. But the retention rate, the metric that actually mattered for a social network, it barely moved. It crept up from 5% to a measly 8%.
That right there is the ultimate pivot signal. Diminishing returns. David realized he was constantly tuning the engine, running brilliant experiments, and his team was working incredibly hard. But his core metrics, specifically retention, were no longer moving in any meaningful way.
So what do they call that?
In Silicon Valley, they call this being trapped in the land of the living dead.
The land of the living dead. That sounds awful.
It is. You're experiencing just enough minor success to justify keeping the lights on, but you aren't actually making progress toward a scalable, sustainable business.
Mhm.
That is your undeniable, data-driven signal to pivot. David had to swallow his pride and accept that while people like the idea of verifying their voter status, they didn't actually want to use the social networking features he had spent months building. He had to fundamentally pivot his entire business model.
And that leads to a really profound redefinition of how we think about a startup's lifespan. Normally, we think of a startup's runway purely in terms of cash.
Right.
If you're burning $50,000 a month and you have $500,000 in the bank, you have 10 months of runway, period.
Yeah.
But this framework changes that math entirely, doesn't it?
It changes everything. A startup's true runway is not how much money it has left in the bank. It's how many pivots it has left. Every pivot costs time, money, and emotional energy. If you can get through the build, measure, learn loop faster and cheaper by using MVPs and actionable metrics, you effectively give yourself more opportunities to pivot before the cash runs out. When David Benetti finally pivoted Vodazone away from a consumer social network and toward a B2B platform where political organizations actually paid to contact his verified voters, his metrics suddenly aligned.
Because he found the actual value.
Yes. His referral rate jumped to 64%, and he started generating real revenue. But he only survived long enough to find that winning B2B model because he paid attention to the pivot signals and refused to waste years languishing in the land of the living dead.
Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from the high-level theory of validated learning down into the gritty details of cohort analysis and the psychology of the pivot. Now, we want to bring it all together and translate this theory into an immediate real-world action plan for you.
Let's do it.
We're giving you 2 deliverables right now, the Lean Experiment Checklist and a 14-day plan to get you moving. First, the checklist. If you are starting a project today, here are the 4 non-negotiable steps you must take. Step 1. Identify your leap of faith assumptions. Ask yourself, what absolutely must be true for this idea to survive? Pinpoint your value hypothesis and your growth hypothesis.
Got it.
Step 2. Find your early adopters. Stop trying to appeal to the mainstream market. Find that desperate, frustrated niche of people who need your solution so badly they'll gladly use a buggy version of it.
That's crucial.
Step 3. Define your MVP. Be absolutely ruthless here. Strip away every single feature, every internal process, every grand idea that does not directly test your leap of faith assumptions. And Step 4. Set your actionable metrics. Throw out total hits and gross revenue. Focus strictly on tracking cohort activation and retention.
And once you have that checklist firmly in place, it's time to execute. We can distill the rapid iteration cycles seen throughout the source material, like the 2 to 4 week sprints at Aardvark, or the daily adjustments at IMVU, into a highly structured 14-day sprint for you to run. Let's break down this 14-day plan.
Let's hear it.
Days 1 through 3 are for aggressive planning. You need to break down your massive vision and isolate your single riskiest assumption. Don't worry about the 5-year roadmap. Just find the one thing that will kill the idea tomorrow if you're wrong about it.
Okay, that's days 1 through 3.
Right. Then days 4 through 7 are for building your MVP. And let me reiterate, do not overbuild. Make a simple screen capture video like Dropbox, or set up a manual concierge test like Food on the Table. If you find yourself writing thousands of lines of code or renting office space in these 3 days, you've completely missed the point.
Then we move out of the building and into the measurement phase. Days 8 through 12, release your MVP to a very small, highly targeted cohort of your early adopters and establish your baseline. Track these specific users through your new minimum metrics table. Did they register? Did they activate? Are they returning?
A hard data.
Yes. Finally, days 13 and 14, evaluate. Look at the cold, hard data. Don't listen to your gut. Listen to the metrics. Did the actionable metrics move toward your ideal target? If yes, congratulations, you persevere and start tuning the engine. If no, you've hit a wall, and it's time to pivot immediately without having wasted months of your life or your entire budget.
This raises an important question about how we view our own professional worth, honestly. The true goal of your career, of your next project, of your entrepreneurial journey, isn't just shipping a product on time and on budget. Anyone can execute a deeply flawed plan efficiently. The true goal is learning how to build a sustainable, valuable business. And that requires a tremendous amount of intellectual humility. You have to be willing to subject your grandest visions to the harsh, unfiltered reality of actual customer behavior.
So what does this all mean? It means we need to stop hiding behind beautiful PowerPoint decks and 50-page business plans and start getting out of the building. I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Look closely at whatever project you're working on right now today. Are you tracking vanity metrics just to make yourself and your boss feel good? Or are you rigorously tracking actionable metrics so you can actually learn the truth? Stop guessing. Build your minimum metrics table today and start your 14-day plan tomorrow.
I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to mull over. We've all been deeply trained by our schools and our corporate cultures to deliver highly polished professional work. But if quality is truly defined by what the customer actually wants, and we admit that in the early stages of any new venture we simply do not know what the customer wants, is your relentless pursuit of professional perfection actually the biggest source of waste in your entire career? Something to think about.
Wow, that is a brilliant, slightly terrifying note to end on. Perfection is waste until you actually know what the customer values. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the lean startup. Keep questioning your assumptions, keep testing those MVPs, and keep learning. We'll see you next time.